Hey, it's Ryan. Thank you for being here. Today, I just want to briefly discuss the time I shot on a Netflix approved camera and then why the specs didn't matter whatsoever. So, I shot a short, which was basically a glorified camera test. It's a 1-minute action film. It's on this channel now. I posted it last week. It had previously been other places, not here on my YouTube. And I just wanted to go over briefly that short and my experience shooting on a Netflix approved camera. The camera in question was the Ursa Mini 4.6K. Now, this is several generations old now on the Ursa Mini. There is now the Ursa Mini 12K. There was the Ursa Mini Pro G2 and the Ursa Mini Pro, all which came after the Ursa Mini 4.6K. Beforehand, there had been the Ursa Mini 4K and then just the giant Ursa, which you may have seen. But the Ursa Mini 4.6K was once the cheapest Netflix approved camera. Now you've got the Panasonic BGH1, I believe, at $2,000. You've also got the Panasonic S1H, which is still maybe a little bit more money than a used Ursa Mini 4.6K, but it's still one of the cheapest, which is why I picked it up. I also got a great deal on it, bought it from a great guy in Canada, and used it for some projects. My first test of it was on this short film run, which I will link up in below and above, I guess. But it was basically a glorified camera test. I wanted to test out the Ursa Mini 4.6K, and I had never shot with one. I wanted to test it out. Now, there's some great things about this camera which make it Netflix approved, which I think beyond the codecs, the 4.6K RAW, which it shoots in Cinema DNG RAW, which is what the original Pocket Cinema camera shoots in, Cinema DNG RAW. It also has all sorts of flavors of ProRes. And then I think what I was going to say, what makes it Netflix approved are the professional connections. It's got SDI connections, different inputs, balanced XLR, time code, that sort of thing. None of that I used on this glorified camera test for run. Basically, I got some friends together, theater actors, and said, let's shoot this. I had sketched out basically shot for shot what I wanted to do in this really short action film. And it was just an excuse to shoot something fun, to make a short action film, and to use the Ursa Mini 4.6K. Unlike most of my peers and other people who make movies, I had never used a camera with an EF mount. I think that's true. At least I didn't regularly. I came from a Sony background, and I have other Blackmagic cameras. I have the original Pocket now. I have two Pocket Cinema Camera 4Ks. All of those are Micro Four Thirds mounts. Of course, the Sonys are E-mount. Even back in the day, I had a digital camera when I shot stills early in the DSLR revolution. I had a Nikon. So I never had a Red and I never had a Canon. And those were kind of the two instances where I may have had EF mount. Never used those. So the first thing I had to do was grab a lens. I shot this whole thing on one single lens. It was the Canon EF 50mm plastic Fantastic f1.8. I got it from a friend who I knew shot Canon. And I said, dude, do you have any lenses you want to sell me? He sold me the cheap 50. So that's all I used on this shoot. And it was fine. Now, as far as Blackmagic goes, I've had great experiences with them, whether it's their old Pocket, the newer Pockets, and with this Ursa, the case was the same. It was fantastic. The Ursa doesn't have the low light performance that the newer Pocket Cinema cameras have, the 4K and the 6K. It kind of has what the old Pocket has, even though the old Pocket Cinema camera has a tiny little Super 16 size Micro Four Thirds sensor, even smaller than the new Pocket 4Ks, by the way. The Ursa Mini 4.6K is a Super 35mm sensor, but it just didn't have any kind of low light performance. So I think I kept it at its native ISO the entire time, which is 800 ISO. So that's what I kept it at. So one lens, one ISO, 800, and a bunch of friends. And we tested it out. And I think it went really, really great. If you haven't seen it, it takes a minute to watch it. It's literally a minute long. And most of the fun happened on the shoot. And then while I was editing, we had a really great time. It was action-packed. We did a few fight scenes. We did a chase scene. There's no stabilization in the Ursa Mini 4.6K, so it's really shaky, but it really lent itself to the look of a fast, high-paced action film. And then stuff like some of the special effects, which I don't want to spoil for you if you haven't seen, but when the one bad guy, she gets hit by a tractor trailer, that was 3 plates. It was a blank plate, and then it was the chase of the 2 actors running across the road, and then it was a plate of the tractor trailer. Blended them all together in After Effects and made it look pretty brutal. It happens really fast, but I think it's surprising and shocking. And all in all, it was fun. The idea for the short was basically, if I had to pitch it, it was like, what if Speed with Keanu Reeves, where they couldn't slow down the bus because the bomb would go off, was mixed with like Run Lola Run. So she's running because, frantic things are happening and she wants to survive, but she can't slow down for too long, or the bomb that's strapped to her leg goes off. So it was all very simple. From the shooting to just on the day, it was super simple. It was a group of friends, to the technicalities, because I did Foley for most of it. It was all, even the dialogue was ADR. So I didn't even plug in an XLR mic. And here we're getting to the part why it didn't matter at all that I was using a Netflix approved camera. Kudos to Blackmagic. The dynamic range on this camera was awesome, and it was a great user experience for shooting narrative. I wouldn't want to shoot a wedding necessarily, or, certain things, stuff like this. I wouldn't really want to use an Ursa Mini 4.6K, but for narrative filmmaking, I thought it was great. But why it didn't matter, besides the fact that I wasn't shooting an original for Netflix, why all the specs of the camera did not matter is I didn't use the SDI. I didn't even use an XLR mic. I didn't use any of the fancy professional inputs or outputs. I didn't use timecode. And then I didn't even use high-end codecs. I didn't shoot this in 4.6K RAW. I didn't even shoot it in 4.6K. I didn't shoot it in 4K. I shot the whole thing in 1080p. And then even then, I shot it in ProRes LT. So at the end of the day, we're back to where we started. Shoot with whatever you have. If you can use a cool camera or buy a cool camera or borrow one and it fits your needs, or it's something you just want to test like I did with Run, go ahead and do it. The Ursa Mini 4.6K was awesome, but I barely used any of the bells and whistles. And I will say it's easier just to pick up a Pocket 4K and to shoot something. I've had a great experience shooting with that camera. So make stuff you like, shoot with what you love or what you can get your hands on at the very least. Have a great time with your friends, make cool stuff. And I guess that's the moral of the story. As always, thanks for hanging out with me, Ryan. I do appreciate it. I'll talk to you real soon. I'll see ya.